Sorry about that, everybody.
The joys of live podcasting. Sometimes things don't work.
Is that Max? Get Max Domi out of our modem room. It's unplugging our broadcast.
Don't know what just happened.
He missed.
But,
He whiffed.
Yeah, we're
good.
now.
We're back. We're doing it. We're talking pucks, preseason or not. I have a very helpful person in the chat yelling at us for talking about hockey.
Yeah,
That's
former
fun.
Bears coach.
Yeah, thanks for the
thanks for
insight
showing
there,
up.
Chach.
Yeah.
I
Plenty
mean,
other shows on YouTube you could watch.
Yeah. Anyway, shoot the puck.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. I think the next preseason game is Thursday night. I would like to see a more offensively minded Blackhawks team. What surprised me about the game yesterday was that I was expecting that to be pretty much 80% NHL roster, and it very largely was not. I was very surprised to see the lineup that Luke Richardson put together for that Milwaukee game. Whether it's he's focusing on development and trying to figure out what he's got in some of these depth players or not, I would have thought maybe there might have been a wink, wink, nudge, nudge from Kyle Davidson and just be like, hey, can you play some of the premier players a little bit here? Give these fans something that they came out to see. But yeah, I was very surprised not to see a more NHL laden lineup. So I guess it's preseason. It's a largely non-NHL lineup that we saw last night, and maybe we're getting in the weeds about things, but I really do think that in the next two games, it's going to be a very close to what we might see on opening night set of rosters.
Yeah, it's time. It's time to give the actual team a look together.
Yeah.
And you saw Korchinski, Savoie went down today.
Mm-hmm.
Arvid Soderblom went down today.
The only Blackhawks goalie would win in preseason.
That's
so
right.
Yeah.
There's also some injury news. Caleb Jones left the game. Looks like he took a hard hit to the shoulder. He was shown holding his shoulder on the bench before he headed to the locker room. Luke Richardson did not have an update at the end of the game. Off day today, so hopefully we know more tomorrow. But that's not great. And I wrote for allchgo.com today kind of my roster projection saying this team's not going to be the youthful group we thought they were going to be, right? Very clear that Lucas Reichel looks like he's going to start in Rockford. I think you could say the same with like Slavin and a lot of guys like kind of on that level that you think maybe have earned NHL jobs, but they're putting such a value on Rockford that they want that team to compete. They want that team to win. So they're going to just let them compete and play big minutes instead of playing bottom 6 minutes here in Chicago. So I sort of went through and projected this with my forwards were Taves, Kane, Johnson, Blackwell, Domi, Reese Johnson, Sam Lafferty, Athanasiou, Radish, Kara, Kurashev, Robinson, and Entwistle. That's 13. Remember, Boris Kachuk announced yesterday out 4 to 6 weeks with an ankle sprain. Defense, I have the Jones brothers before last night. Connor Murphy, Riley Stillman, Jack Johnson, Alex Vlasic, and Philip Roos. That's 7. And then potential extras would be Dylan Secura, Cole Gutman, or Mike Hardman on offense. And I think if Caleb Jones is out now, that Alec Regula might be. And
also Jake McCabe will likely not be ready to go at the start of the year. So he'll, based on his projected timeline, he'll miss out maybe the first week, maybe 2. But I think there's with some injuries that they've experienced throughout the preseason now, there's some spots opening up that you might see a young guy pop up that you weren't expecting. But I think going into this summer, we thought a lot about like, okay, now is the time to see a lot of young guys. It's gonna maybe be later in the season when we see some of those guys come up, even with these injuries. The opening night roster and through the first few months of the season might be a more experienced roster with some young guys. I mean, Entwistle, Kurashev, they're in their early 20s still, but they've been around for a bit. It's not like you're talking about a guy like Lucas Reichel or anything like that, where it's like, oh, this is the first chunk of NHL time that he's really going to see.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about like the Slavin, Regula types, they're a little more, I guess you'd say, like ingrained in Rockford than Kurashev and Entwistle. They've been out of the, they've been with the team for a while. Yeah. So, it's just like when the season ended, they sent Vlasic to Rockford. He never played. Right? I got the timeline right?
He never played, no.
Yeah.
Well,
he
though
never
they
he
never
never
sent
went
him to
he never went to
Oh, that's right.
Rockford.
They never sent him
Yeah.
at all. Right.
No, he went.
They sent Nolan Allen and Colton Dock down there, but neither of them played.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Vlasic came in and he was scratched a bunch at the beginning of his tenure and then jumped
So
into
they're
the
looking
lineup.
for continuity in Rockford, and I think
Yeah.
I'll say, like, if I had to choose right now, I would want Lucas Reichel on this team. Is he one of the best 12 forwards? Yes. I don't think there's any question about it.
Mm-hmm.
But their plan is to, I guess, maybe overdevelop, over-marinade, which I guess is fine. But I think if you have a bunch of games where they're, playing 3 games and they're scoring 4 goals, they're going to have to find some offense somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, you got to at least create the illusion of trying to compete for the guys that are here.
Mm-hmm.
Look, even last night, they didn't play well, but they're out there trying.
Right.
They're playing hard. They're not, pulling up on checks. They're competing. They're physical. They're skating hard. Loss after loss after loss. Even though that's the plan, you've got to at least be in some games.
Mm-hmm.
And with the offense as it was last night, and again, not the full lineup, of course, they haven't scored a goal since Sam Lafferty's empty netter. Feels like a month ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't endure 3-0, 4-0, 4-1 losses all season. Like, you have to have some games where you're competitive. Going to getting games to overtime and shootouts because it's 4-4, stuff like that, or losing. If you have to lose, make it 6-5 or something like that. Something exciting, and to show that there's levels of success that you're seeing in some of these players. And in the systems that Luke Richardson is implementing, like I talked about earlier, those are the things you want to see, because if you keep getting your head beat in 4-1, 5-1, getting shut out, like the morale, as much as it's according to Tyler Johnson, better than it was at any point last season.
It's not saying much.
Sure, but it's small improvement. That's going to take a hit real quick, and the veteran players who have big voices in the locker room, if they're taking those losses and those hits and it's getting the frustration, it's going to be hard to mask that, and it's going to be hard for Luke Richardson and the rest of the guys in the locker room to keep spirits high as this season drags on. And I think you have to have some of those games where it's just like, all right, this was a game where we came out, things worked the way they were supposed to. You talk about them always competing. It's really the blueprint of the type of team that the Kyle Davidson wants to put together. Mm-hmm. And it's a team kind of mentality that Luke Richardson is going to implement. And you have to have that rewarded every now and then. Otherwise, it's just like, well, what are we doing here? I've played on sports teams that have got their heads beat in for an entire season, and by the end of the season, it was just like a death march. Like, can we just get this over with, please? So it's definitely challenging. So you need to have some of those results where even in a loss, you can say, you know what, we put a really good game out there.
I think you said it last night, Jay, where it's like, okay, yeah, they're losing and it's not going great, but they're still playing hard, and that's good to see. But is that what we're going to see in February when they've lost 7 in a row and it's bad as it's going to be, and they've hit their lowest point? Are you still going to see them trying hard in the third period when they're down 3-0? That remains to be seen, because there is going to be stretches of that during this season based on this roster.
I mean, look, for a prime example, let's look at number 19. When things were going well for the Hawks, there was nobody skating harder, no one trying harder, no one more engaged than Jonathan Toews. Mm-hmm. When things started going downhill, you saw that change. You saw that take its toll on him mentally and physically. And even the guys who, air quotes, want it the most can only take so much losing. And, night after night after night, again, you're out there giving it your all, you're finishing checks, you're skating as hard as you possibly can, and you look up and it's 4-1. What's the point, right? And I think that to me is going to be Richardson's biggest challenge, is how does he keep these guys engaged through a losing season? And I do think there's going to be some of those nights where they just don't look interested, and it's going to be understandable, right? But it's weeding out, like, who are the guys who at the end of the year are still giving it everything they've got. And that's why when we talk about why it might make sense for a lot of these guys to be in Rockford instead, It's because they're going to be winning. They're going to be competing. They're going to be in the playoffs. All these things that you want for young players to experience, not only on the ice, but off of it. Mm-hmm. High fives after the game, going out to the bars after the game, having a good time, bonding, laughing, being together, enjoying the game. That's important in development too. It's not just going out there, scoring goals, and going home. There's a whole lifestyle to hockey. And going through loss after loss after loss really, really, really can have an impact on people. So do I want Lukas Reichel here? Yes. But could I see 20, 30 games in him being like, this sucks. I don't like this at all. Because what I'm used to is being really good and scoring a lot. And I'm not doing either of those things.
One thing you said earlier about Reichel just a couple of minutes ago, I wanted to touch on. You said, maybe he starts in Rockford, and then, if the offense is struggling, he can maybe provide a boost or something along those lines. I'm not necessarily sure I want that either, because, if it's terrible through the first 6 weeks of the season and they got the lowest scoring offense in the league, and then you're like, okay, we're going to call Lukas Reichel.
Yeah,
then the expectation is he's the offensive savior.
Yep.
And the pressure gets amped up. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't, if he goes through 3 or 4 games without a point, then you're going to start hearing that B word come out. That word that the bust word that started coming out very early with Kirby Dach.
Yeah.
Because the expectations were so high. So maybe starting him here in Chicago is the right thing to do, where hey, if he's struggling with it, then everybody's struggling with it. And there's not that he's here to save the season type of mentality. No, I don't think many people are going to have that mentality, but if you're
fans will.
If you're in the lowest, if you got the worst offense in the league and you bring up your top prospect, the expectation is going to be, hey buddy, you're here to score goals. Why aren't you scoring goals? You stink.
Yeah. Speaking of worst in the league, we've got some new projections we want to share with everybody. But first, we want to tell you about our friends at Green Ridge Farm. I love meat. Do I look like a guy that loves meat?
Yeah.
I kind of smell like meat most of the time. Like a summer sausage or venison. I always have a meaty sort of a musk to me. Lawrence agrees.
Is that what I'm getting right now? Okay.
He's nodding along. Green Ridge Farm.
A bit of a jalapeno cheddar.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes perfect sense.
Well, he was in Wisconsin yesterday.
Green Ridge Farm is a local meat and cheese company offering you a better all-natural option. You see it in your deli case at the Jewels. I saw it at the Costco's. Wherever you're shopping in Chicagoland, you're going to find Green Ridge Farm. They really want you to know about the meat sticks, which we got like a case of them a while back here at CHGO. All natural.
Didn't last
hardwood
long.
smoked for 8 hours. They were gone quick. Perfect for tailgating, happy hour, or school lunches. 16 grams of protein per stick, making it a perfect post-workout snack, I'm told. They come in chicken, black forest beef, and flavors like jalapeno cheddar. That's the goat. And spicy chili, also very good. If you haven't tried them, you don't know what you're missing. So here is your opportunity. Go to greenridgefarm.com. Order any 3 meat products, and then include a pack of the meat sticks in your order. Those meat sticks will be free when you use the code CHGO at checkout. Again, add any 3 meat products to your cart, then add the meat sticks as well at greenridgefarm.com. Use the code CHGO, and the meat sticks will be free. This is a Jay Zawaski Fat Guy promise. You will love Green Ridge Farm meat sticks and all their products. Green Ridge Farm, simply natural meat.
Free meat.
I'm hungry now.
Let's get some meat.
Yeah.
We got the girls fired up. Is it ready to go?
Can be.
It can be. Get
Weber.
get shirtless guy.
Fires
out
up
there.
quick.
Get him on it. The weather is still good for grilling. Weather is also still good for shorts. As you can see my nice pasty thighs here on the YouTube broadcast. Weather is also still nice, just nice enough for some golf. And if you're still out on the golf course, as it is now October, hats off to you. Be sure to pick up yourself some Pins and Aces golf apparel. They are the official golf apparel partner of CHGO and the presenting sponsor for the Big Drive Energy podcast on the All City Network. Pins and Aces is a family-owned golf apparel business. You love that. They have amazing polos, hats, golf bags, even one that has a beer sleeve in it. that can keep up to 7 of your favorite beers right there in the golf bag. Keeps them cold the entire round, which is perfect for a person like me who likes to have a beer or 7 on the golf course. Be sure to go to pinsandaces.com and use the promo code CHGO. You'll receive 15% off of your first order, and you'll get free shipping. That's pinsandaces.com, promo code CHGO for 15% off of your order and free shipping. Golf weather is going to hold out just enough, so be looking good in your Pins and Aces apparel.
Get out there. Let's go. All right, so Josh Youngren of Evolving Hockey, one of the best hockey metric sites out there. If you're interested in such things, you should become a subscriber and help out these people who are helping hockey information become available, because the NHL is not. They've got their projections for the season. And if you are rooting for Connor Bedard, as we all are, he projects the Blackhawks will be dead last in the league with 63.5 points. That's a projection.
You love the half point.
Coyotes with 67.2. So 2.5 games better for the Coyotes than the Blackhawks. Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
Yeah.
You got to hope the Blackhawks go 0-4 against the Coyotes this year. That's an 8-point swing right there.
Those are the Alex Taylock games, my friend.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know.
I don't know. Based on some of the,
you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, the 40 minutes he played against the Red Wings the other night looked pretty good. It was the finals 20 that didn't really.
Yeah. I think based on some of the
case.
rebounds I've been seeing out of number 34, it's not going to make a lick of difference who's in goal. Yikes! There was some juicy rebounds yesterday that if it was a regular season game would have gotten a lot uglier a lot quicker. But
most of these projections are saying the Blackhawks are in the bottom 5, 4, 3 teams in the league. This one in particular is saying that they're projected to be the worst. And, you know, we talk about like, oh, it's a preseason game. This isn't really an NHL lineup and whatnot. Part of the preseason is figuring out who your depth players are and who's one of those between the AHL and NHL players, guys who will get called up. And so, you know, when you're talking about like the production of Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews during the preseason, it's just like, yeah, you want to see them doing well, but you also kind of give them a pass because you're like, well, they're NHL players already. There's nothing to worry about there. They'll kick it on in the regular season. This is an opportunity for some of those mid-level players, some of those depth players to step up and make an impact. And I don't think a lot of those guys have done that, which makes me feel like a team made up of these depth players, mostly for the Blackhawks, it's like, oh, yeah, there'll be a 60-point team. Like I really feel like the issues that we talked about on Friday with the Coyotes crew, the PHNX crew, we talked about the lack of depth scoring, basically outside of Patrick Kane, who is going to score goals, who is going to be offensively productive for the team. And most of those guys that are going to fill that role are likely gone by March 3rd. And the guys below those players, I don't see much of anything, at least through the preseason or in previous seasons, where I would believe like, oh, yeah, they might also – produce some offensive pop. I don't see it. I don't think, as much as I like Mackenzie Entwistle for the game that he plays, his offensive game doesn't pop at the NHL level. We haven't really seen it too much from Philip Kurashev.
A nice pass the other night.
Yeah,
set up Reichel.
Flashes of that skill, but nothing too consistent. Sam Lafferty is a great energy forward. A great guy to have to fit that competitive, relentless style that Kyle Davidson wants the team to have. He's not a point producer. He's not a goal scorer.
Have you guys noticed Taylor Radish at all?
Only when he was fumbling the puck on the power play,
or when he was getting pushed off the puck along the boards.
Yeah,
it's preseason and it's 4 games of preseason, and we saw a lot of guys that aren't going to be here this year. I mean, for crying out loud, we saw. Cale Howarth. Yeah, sure. Harry Hogwarts and Luke Phillip on power play action yesterday. That is never going to happen ever in a regular season game.
Not in the NHL.
I could say that with confidence. That will never happen in an NHL game. So yes, but when the little bits and pieces of like the legit lines that we're going to see to start the season, we talked about the Kane line. They're not producing offense in their 2 games. That's a problem. Because other than that line, whoever's playing with Patrick Kane, there's your offense. I don't see it coming from anywhere else. We've seen Jonathan Toews with Tyler Johnson and Taylor Radish so far.
And Colin Blackwell.
Sure. Who the F is scoring any goals?
I don't know.
I don't see offense anywhere else besides number 88 right now. This might change. Toews might have that bounce back year. Everybody says it could happen. I don't see it happening. Tyler Johnson, I like Tyler Johnson a lot. And just, I don't see it. Taylor Radish does nothing for me right now. That might be able to change. Philip Kurashev. Man, we get 12 goals out of Philip Kurashev. That's a successful season.
Let's do this. Like, who are the players that stood out in the preseason in a positive way? Kevin Korchinski and
your guy.
Samuel Savoie for being a cannonball on the ice.
Arvid Soderblom?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there hasn't. I know it's preseason, and I know.
But you said it's 1 preseason game. Well, it's only 2 preseason games. Well, it's 3 preseason games.
Right.
Well, it's only 4 preseason games.
NHL guys are out there playing against AHL guys. They should be dominating.
Thank you.
And they're not.
Yes, exactly. Jonathan, I'm just going to flat out say it. Toews has been freaking invisible.
Yeah.
He does nothing when he's on the ice. And you can blame his line mates if you want. Fine. But my God, he's just not productive. Sure, he'll back check every now and again. Cool. Like, there's a lot of guys that can do that.
He wins faceoffs, but it doesn't. That's great. You need that, but what's the point?
You got to do something with the puck. Exactly.
I don't know.
There's no offense on this team.
The problem with that, with all this, is the players you're seeing. The players of consequence that you're seeing having these issues in the preseason or having just a lack of production, if that translates into the start of the regular season, granted, we're talking about this team trying to get Connor Bedard. We understand that. But that can translate into bad habits. That can translate into poor attitudes. So you want to have some success in the preseason out of players that are going to be here or players that are battling for positions in the bottom of the lineup or whatnot. You want to have some signs of success for those kinds of players so that they can translate into the regular season and it can translate into a positive season, to have some sort of positivity to it. Because if bad things from the preseason translate to the regular season, then you're already going to be in a pissy mood. And when the losses start to count against your regular season total, it makes it worse. And so you want to have a little bit of some building blocks to take from the preseason into the regular season because you need to have something. If you go in there with absolutely nothing, if you go into the regular season with absolutely nothing to show from the preseason, it's hard for the players. It's hard for Luke Richardson. It's just going to make this season, which is going to be long, even harder.
Well, and it also, as we look at the Rockford Chicago lineups, it makes sense too that you don't want guys here in a toxic situation because you talk about bad habits developing. It can ruin a kid.
Yeah.
Going through that can ruin somebody. So I don't know. As much as I keep referencing the cookie, as much as I like the cookie of Lucas Reichel, let's wait for the whole meal. And when, Davidson has earned my trust. The plan seems sound. He has stayed on point. Yes, the qualifier, he did not get enough for Alex DeBrincat. Noted, right? But most of the other stuff he's done has been pretty solid and pointed in the right direction. Hopefully he's making the right decision with these kids for their long-term development because that's what matters. And then if you get Connor Bedard in this draft, he joins the Blackhawks next year, all of a sudden you call up Reichel, you call up Slavin, you call up some of these more skilled guys you've got playing in Rockford. You got another year of Korchinski in the minors, Nolan Allen, Ethan Del Mastro's probably ready to go. And all of a sudden, you can start to see where they're coming from here, right? The guys that matter, honestly, truthfully, the guys that matter, aside from Reichel, are not in Chicago or Rockford.
It's true.
Most of them, yeah.
Most of the guys that are going to make up the roster when this team is in the playoffs again, probably haven't even been drafted yet. So,
True.
right, there's a lot of things we can preface our statements. And yes, this is preseason, but you're starting to see concerning trends that, as you just said, Mario, can carry over into the regular season, and then that snowball rolling down a hill becomes a full force avalanche, and you can't get out of the way of it.
Right.
And yes, we have no expectations of winning this year. But you don't want to see it to be a complete waste of a year.
Yeah.
You want to come out of this year with at least 3 or 4 things you can grasp onto and say, this was a successful season for this young player and his progression. Or, Luke Richardson being able to do this as a coach. It's going to be a real big learning experience for Luke Richardson on how to coach a team that is losing and how to break some of these potential bad habits that may form. So it'll be interesting to see how he attacks that as the year goes on. But yes, it's preseason. Yes, it doesn't count, but there are some legit things to be concerned about. I have no expectations of any sort of success this year, but I also don't want to see just guys not trying or guys not being their best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you go through this entire season and you don't have more than 2 or 3 positive takeaways, then yeah, you're in the wasted year territory where it's just like, oh, they really sucked, and there was nothing to point to, and then it's just like, okay, well, if they do end up with Connor Bedard, that's great, but what is he walking into? Is he walking into a as you said, Jay, like a toxic scenario? Because that's just counterproductive. That's not going to, be the accelerant to the rebuilding process that the Blackhawks are hoping that they are. If you get a guy like Connor Bedard, put him into the organization, and the organization is already like, all right, step 1 to get Connor Bedard, check. Now we're ready to hit the ground running with, accelerating the rebuild or getting things where we want it to be in the next 2 to 3 seasons, where it's like, hey, we can be competitive again. If you have a season where it's just like everything's shit, all of it's gone, hot garbage, burn it all away, well then the only thing you may come away with is Connor Bedard, and it's just like, all right, well, are we that much better? A little bit, but what scenario is he walking into?
If we're sitting here at this point next year, 1 year from now, still wondering, hey, Lucas Reichel might be a good NHL player, he might not be. If we're still having those discussions, it hasn't been a great year.
Well, we might be. I mean, look, the Kirby Dach thing, we still don't know. Montreal doesn't know what kind of player he's going to be in. We saw those flashes just like with Reichel, but I said the other day, like, we've yet to see that dominant Lucas Reichel shift. Yes, he had 4 points in the Tom Culver's prospect showcase.
Right.
And I know it's Culver's, shut up. And that's great, but it wasn't like he's out there like splitting a D and, lighting up the net. A lot of those were secondaries. A lot of them were I'm not trying to write him off, but like we just have not seen that Reichel moment yet.
Yeah, it's positive to see, and it's a good way for him to build confidence. Being really good in the AHL is a way to build confidence. I think with Reichel, he did that last year, which is why I advocate for him to be in the NHL, because now it's like, okay, take that experience from last season, take the games that you played in the NHL from last season, now build that confidence at the NHL level. If the Blackhawks want to keep him in the AHL to help build the winning culture in Rockford, I understand that, and yeah, that's probably going to help. But if we're 7 games in the AHL season and he's got 15 points, okay, like can we elevate his game a little bit now?
I also think an angle of that too is you've got Kane and Taves and Johnson and Jones and Domi and Murphy, and they look at each other like, why is this kid not playing here?
Right.
Like
they would want to also play with a guy who's going to elevate their games as well, or could.
Yes, he's one of our better players. He should be here. Mm-hmm. So that's an element maybe we hadn't considered yet is how do the veterans feel if they're like, Lucas Reichel was sent to Rockford? Why?
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
They've already had those, Alex DeBrincat was traded. Why? Kirby Dach was traded. Why? Like, You don't need those veterans having more questions unanswered. I get they don't need to like every move that's going to happen, but I think at some point you have to kind of make it clear through plans of development or whatever that you can say, hey, you guys can have this young player to play with, and it's going to make a difference. But we'll see.
Yeah. Should we do Foco before we tie
Let's tell the good people about Foco.
Yeah. You know what? It was fun yesterday. Jay and I took a little lap around the concourse at the Fiserv Forum.
Oh, thanks for the invite, guys.
Because we told you. You were
Yeah, we're
I know.
Aside from Mario, do you want to come with? And you saying no, we did absolutely not invite you.
I mean,
we
the
totally
big question
blew you
though
off.
is, did Phil Thompson join you?
No.
That's why he was. Yeah.
He had enough about 2 minutes into the game. When I said, I can't. Greg warned him before the game that what you're getting
childish.
into. And then they played a song that was reminiscent of a moment on South Park. So I shouted across to Greg, I go, Greg, you ever see the episode of South Park where they microwave their balls and bounce around town on them? Yeah, this is what this music's like. And Phil's like, my lord. Puck hasn't even dropped yet. And we're talking
Phil's
about
like,
balls.
Man, they will let anybody into the press box these days. But anywho, on our trip around the concourse that we totally invited Mario to join us, we stopped in the gift shop or the pro shop, whatever they call it there, and we were checking out some of the cool Blackhawks merch. And then they had of course, they had Milwaukee Bucks merch in there, and we saw on one of the stuffed animals a Foco tag. We're like, hey, we know them.
Yeah.
Those are our buddies over at Foco. And they are your one-stop shopping for all your officially merchandised professional sports gear. They've got you covered from the United Center all the way to the front room, north or south side. They've got hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Get decked out like hopefully our guy Lucas Reichel in your favorite Blackhawks gear from the leader in sports merch and collectibles, Foco. Looking for the perfect gift for the hockey fan in your life, Foco's got you covered with hoodies that will keep you warm when you're sitting close to the glass this year at the United Center, because those tickets will be available. Check out Foco, FOCO.com, or click on the link in the YouTube description below or wherever you're listening to our wonderful podcast. And as a special bonus to our CHGO listeners, that's you guys, use the promo code CHGO at checkout, and you're going to receive 10% off all non-sale items over at FOCO, FOCO.com.
All right, a couple things we want to tell you about. Our show schedule for the week. We are off tomorrow. Wednesday will be audio only. Thursday post-game. Friday we're off. We're back Saturday. Next Wednesday, the season begins. The actual NHL season begins.
Crept up fast.
And we will be in Denver.
Yes.
With our friends at DNVR. So that night, we're going to do a post-game. It's going to be slightly delayed because DNVR obviously gets priority because their team is good, and it's their home studios.
And it's their banner night.
Yes.
And we're going to let them talk about a regular season loss before we get to talk about them.
Yeah, they got to lick their wounds before we go in and celebrate.
They're going to be drunk, and they're going to, and it's.
Are you just
all
going to be
good.
creeping in the background of their live show, just kind of standing there staring?
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll be like that guy on like Good Morning America with like the sign behind the window, like, hey.
Yeah, that works.
Katie.
Yeah, so that'll be next. That's next Wednesday. The season begins, but we're going to be in Denver, which is awesome. It's so exciting. We sort of speculated that might happen, and now it's actually happening, and it's
exciting.
It's
We're
incredible.
gonna be out there the day before Tuesday.
Yeah, but I think Tuesday we might be doing a crossover show.
We're hopefully going to do a crossover show with the Avalanche crew live from
Can
Denver.
I go? Am I allowed? I want to go.
Hey, we got room.
Talk to Jake. He's our booking
you
agent.
should do. You should do it from Red Rocks. That's my suggestion.
Hey, I'd love to do that. That's on my bucket list. And then Wednesday post game show from there. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I've never been to Denver. I can't wait to go.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
gonna be a good
I'm
time.
looking forward
Drink
to
a
it.
lot
The
of
other
water. You know, a lot of water. You're high altitude. You got to stay hydrated.
That's
Oh yeah, I'm not doing any stairs.
No stairs. Good
All right,
call.
good.
You don't do that
I don't
in
need
Chicago.
to have exactly. Unless we're with Mario. When I'm with Mario, sometimes I'm like, I should pretend I'm healthy. No, all right. The other thing we got to tell you about our next CHGO Bears tailgate, November 6th versus the Miami football team.
If they're still in the league by then.
Yeah, if anyone's still employed by them.
8 a.m. to noon. Go to allchgo.com to purchase your tickets. Several ticket options. Some include parking, some don't. join us. It was such an amazing time last time. I was blown away. I had high expectations, and my expectations were blown away. I think you guys agree.
Had a good
We had
time.
about 200 people out there enjoying tacos, enjoying pizza, donuts, booze,
Music, games,
music. Yeah,
course
Justin
hall.
Fields. Yeah, it was just a great day, great weather. I think November 6th will still be pretty decent, maybe a
Should
little
be
bit cold,
okay.
maybe
Yeah,
hoodie.
whatever. It's Bears weather.
Yeah, that's
Probably
right.
gonna need some space heaters.
Exactly, but it's going to be a great time. We're all going to be there. Come join us the 6th of November, 8 a.m. to noon at the corner of Michigan and Roosevelt. It's a great time. Come join us. Allchgo.com to get your tickets. To be clear, you do not need tickets to the Bears game to attend the tailgate.
But feel
if
free to go
you're-
on Game Time.
If you're looking for tickets, make sure you go on Game Time. Use any of the links in any of our podcast bios to buy your tickets because that helps us out. But get in that habit when you're looking to buy tickets to a game, a concert, whatever. Use our Game Time links to score an amazing deal on last-minute tickets. So we'll see you November 6th at the tailgate, and we'll see you we'll talk to you Wednesday, audio only. So look for around lunchtime-ish on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Thanks, everybody.